Does this music fade out at any point? Or do we just let it go? Nah, we're a little rusty. We'll ride with it. Welcome back to the Loyal Sons Show. That's at the Loyal Sons on all the social medias. Follow us there and follow us here for anywhere you get your podcast for Pitt sports content you won't want to miss. If you love college football 25 being released in a couple of months and hate that we still have to wait for it, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sons Show, a safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt athletics fix. Fellas, welcome back. I think we're going on a month and a half since the last time we recorded. Unfortunately, we are in a very, very weird place where we actually don't want to talk about Pitt football. It's cold how we've fallen.
It's a little strange and makes a mockery of our name, the Loyal Sons. But two of us are planning a wedding, and one of us is planning the Pittsburgh Marathon. And the limited
that was a couple months ago. So
I'm giving you an out, Squid. What I'm saying is the minimal free time that we do have is better not spent talking about a team that is certainly going to go 4-8. So, yeah, I guess things have changed. But it's good to be back. Happy to see you guys.
Yeah, when we hopped on this call today, our background was actually Dayon Hayes, and that's because the last episode we did was an emergency pod after he announced he was transferring. So that shows how long it's been. So we've got some things to catch up on, some things that we're probably not going to touch on either. But one thing was able to get us back behind the microphones, back on camera. And it's something that we've waited over a decade for. And it's none other than EA Sports College Football 2025.
God, I can't put into words my excitement. I want to preface this all by saying that EA Sports is not paying us to talk about their game. I'd have to imagine they'd be much more inclined to pay us not to, right, given, the kind of people and brains that we are. However, if they do want to, if anyone from EA Sports is listening and you want to send us free copies for this advertising we're about to do for free, you are more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, well, I already pre-ordered the game. That won't help me.
Yeah,
the deluxe edition was pre-ordered.
Squid doesn't need one, but I know Dave and I both need consoles. I actually, you know what console I have at my house right now? I have an Xbox 360. That's how long it's been since I've been a gamer.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought I would have the oldest one for sure. The Xbox S that I got as a gift my senior year of college. Not as a gift, as payment, because a buddy of mine broke both of his legs the last week of school and was running from the cops. And so we had to move all of his stuff from Athens, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio. And for holding on to all of his belongings in our apartment for a month, he gave us a new Xbox, which I promptly took.
Nice.
A couple weeks ago, I was over at Dylan's. We were having a good old-fashioned spring bonfire. Towards the end of the night, we ventured inside and we had the bright idea to dust off Dylan's old Xbox. And we fired it up, but one of the controllers' analog sticks didn't work. So Dylan beat me by a lot, but he had an advantage.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. That's actually not even my original Xbox 360. I went and bought that for like $50 down at Ninja Electronics downtown just because I got the itch to play NCAA 13. I actually don't even have 14. I have 13. But yeah, I bought that probably a little bit after I graduated college, and that's the extent of my gaming for the last several years. So
I played this game quite a bit throughout college. Many dynasties were made. I actually pulled it up about an hour ago to just look at it again to see the rosters. And I think the latest one that I downloaded was, I think it was a 2020 season roster. and I definitely did some modifications on my own because there were some guys with some quite high overalls. I think Paris Ford and Damar Hamlin were 90s respectively. Taysier Mack was an 86, so I was probably going through it, like really having the urge to beat up on Penn State, Alabama, you name it.
Fan fiction, yeah.
Yeah.
Dylan, remember we went through a period where you would have parties at your house and we would spend like the back half of the night just a bunch of dudes jammed into a room watching you do your Road to Glory.
Yeah, Road to Glory or My Dynasty. Yeah, we had a good number of those. I would always like to just like challenge someone halfway through the night, like come inside and get beat in a backyard brawl. My buddy Wags, West Virginia fan, forgive him, beat him in a few backyard brawls late nights in that room. But
those got heated.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think at one point we literally had like 10 dudes like chirping him. Like I had a legitimate home field advantage. This guy was just absolutely chirping him while he's trying to play a game. Nothing like it, guys being dudes.
Anything we could do to not talk to women in 2019.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, with that being said, it's been how long since this game was released? Squid, you probably haven't played with the original rosters since 2014 itself. So we're going to do some recalibration here. Look at what the most recent NCAA football game, the ratings that were given to the Pitt Panthers under Paul Chryst back in, I guess this would have been the 2013 season for NCAA 14. So we'll look at that roster, just try to get some bearings before we talk through this year's roster and how we think those ratings are going to shake out. So,
yeah. I don't think, because I don't think we did a mission statement, hypothesis for this episode. We are here to guess the ratings for the current Pitt roster. It might be bad enough that this could also count as a season preview. I think we might arrive at a couple record predictions by the end of this, but yes, we want to talk about everything pertaining to this game and your Pitt Panthers, because God, it has been a while. And, I wish I wanted to play as the Panthers more when this game drops in July, but we have to do our due diligence as the loyal Sons to at least discuss the matter.
Absolutely. So if you're, a lot of you listen to this just on audio, but if you're watching this on YouTube, we're actually sharing our screen. Some sicko has a YouTube channel completely dedicated to screen recording the rosters for NCAA Football 14. But I'm glad that that person exists, because we were having a hell of a time trying to find some type of spreadsheet or something that showed the ratings from that game. So without further ado, I have it pulled up here. And fellas, do you see who the number one rated player on that 2013 team was?
Is that
Devin Street?
Yeah, is that Devin Street?
Devin Street with an 88 overall. So as I was looking through this while we were doing some prep for this episode, a couple of these are like kind of hard to guess. I had to go back on the actual roster to find some of these guys. Forgot that, the cities aren't super accurate. They're usually pretty good about what state these guys were from. But yeah, so running through this list, the number 2 rated guy they have there, Jason Hendricks at safety. I think Squid,
this is not a very exciting Pitt team to play with.
Not at all. No, this was that was kind of my first thought, was like, oh, we went like through a whole decade of teams that could have been fairly exciting, but we're going from one very boring Paul Chryst team to one very boring Pat Narduzzi team. K'Wan Williams, honestly, has played like 10 years in the NFL. He was only an 83 overall in the game. Squid, I think you pointed out the top 3 guys got those stars behind them. Mm-hmm. The impact players, I think they used to call them on NCAA. 87 overall speed at corner, not the best. probably wouldn't have been the first team you picked to play with on a ranked matchup. 70. I went back on the roster. I think this was Juantez Hollins from Aliquippa. I quite frankly don't know that he deserved even that high of a rating. 68, number 68, TJ Clemmings. He was an 80 overall. Don't even know who was our kicker at the time, but this is a good one right here. Oh, Kevin Harper. My apologies, but this was a interesting one right here. Number 97, the defensive tackle. I believe that's none other than Aaron Donald himself. 79 overall. So going back on this, the ratings were not only inaccurate, but fairly disrespectful in some cases.
So this is giving me no frame of reference for our exercise going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald, Tom Savage, and Isaac Bennett are all 79 overalls, just as you would think looking back on that team.
The greatest defensive football player of our lifetime, in a year that he won every award was a 79 overall. So it begs the question.
Following year, he did. Going into that year is where we're at right now.
Okay. So we'll give him the benefit
but he's still
of the doubt.
A very good year leading up to that. He wasn't a nobody.
So, another reason to possibly give EA Sports the benefit of the doubt. Dylan, you called this out. Most of the hometowns are wrong, and if you're watching right now, you can see that none of these guys, aside from like one or two attributes, look like the players they are representing. And
they weren't allowed to.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that was trying to escape the impending Supreme Court case that would decide that this game could no longer be made until NIL was legal. And it also makes me wonder if they were that dedicated to accuracy, or at least accurately reflecting the abilities of these players that they were clearly representing, right? Because Devin Street at an 88 feels kind. Aaron Donald at 79 is criminal. So were they just kind of ballparking it like, kids will play the game no matter what?
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're banking on.
Okay.
I think also, I mean, at this point, and I do think this is what people forget. It's like, it was always, we want the names of the players in the game. As soon as you bought the game, you just went and downloaded like the top roster. And someone somewhere went through the time of renaming every single player on the roster. So rarely turned out to be an issue. I'm sure those rosters were updated, but yeah, I don't know. I think
I'm sure high school me downloaded the rosters and jacked up Aaron Donald like 14 overall.
You certainly made him a 99. I don't think
I probably made half the team a 99.
Exactly.
Correctly.
It's like, why is Tom Savage's arm strength at a 99? What are we doing here?
Todd Thomas, 70.
Is 34 Stevens Howling?
Isaac Bennett.
Oh,
you're a few years off there. Isaac
my
Bennett,
bad.
Number 34. He was a 79
Pitts,
overall.
23.
Lafayette Pitts, number 23. He's what do we got? A 78 overall. Todd Thomas, 76 overall. JP Holtz, 76 overall.
Nice.
So his hometown was State College, PA. Not quite.
Is this Ray Vinipal here? Free safety,
that's disrespectful.
Number 9, the 76 overall. So I think we kind of get the idea. Obviously, it's not anywhere perfect, these ratings, and we'll let that run through. Oh, Chad Wojtek, 73 overall.
Can we just I think what would be even more telling is if you just scroll right to the bottom. I want to know what like a true freshman bench warmer is. That will give me more context for what we're about to do than I think anything else.
Yeah, I'm just going to let it
Oh wait, you aren't
Sonoma.
controlling this. It's a YouTube video. This is abysmal radio.
Wow, redshirt freshman senior at a 65 overall. I don't think I've seen T Boyd yet.
Did they have all the incoming freshmen in the game, like depending on when they committed?
Probably not.
Yeah, it was something weird like that.
Well, this kind of answers your question, David. Redshirt freshman. The worst player on the team was a 58 overall.
Okay, that helps.
So
that helps.
Max 88, minimum 58, and a whole lot of mid to high 70s in between.
Yeah. Okay.
So with that being said, and now we have some sort of frame of reference, even though I think we've decided that it might not be the best frame of reference. I'm going to pull up the depth chart. We're just going to sort it through and see what we can possibly think these guys are going to look like when that game gets released in July.
Yeah, so like David said, kind of a season preview. How much confidence do we have in certain players? Who are we excited to play with? What position groups are we thinking, oh no, this is going to be bad? It's a good way to start thinking about the team again.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah, obviously this is listed with the wide receivers first, but I think it would be more logical to just start with the most important position on the field with Nate Yarnell. Squid, you were reading off a stat before we started recording. Do you still have that handy for us?
I just found an article online. It was somebody guessing they were guessing overall ratings for every quarterback in the game. And the list had 155 quarterbacks rated, and Nate Yarnell was 151st at a 71 overall, which is worse than Navy's quarterback. Spencer Petras is up there. Tyson Pumashon, who went from Clemson to UConn to UMass, was higher than him. I'm not going to sit here the rest of the episode and say this is way too low for a Pitt player, but Nate Yarnell should not be lower than those guys. What do we think a fair rating for the sheriff Nate Yarnell should be?
I think a fair one would be like high 70s. Maybe even low 80s. However, given the fact that he is just kind of a guy who started 3 football games in his career and was a backup to the 2 observably worst quarterbacks maybe to play the sport ever, I don't think that EA Sports is confidence in him is going to be very high. I think he's going to come in at like a 73, 74.
Okay. So I think you landed around where we're going to land. And I think a good exercise for all of us Pitt fans is to think what you would rate this player and then subtract like 2 or 3.
Mm.
Because you have watched every down of Kenny Johnson. You've watched every down of Gavin Bartholomew, Rodney Hammond. The people making this game have not. They might have seen some highlights. They've probably seen Gavin Bartholomew hurdle a guy. They probably look at their stats and they're like, those stats aren't that great. So that's what it'll be based off of. I wish someone from EA Sports would call me up and be like, yo, what do you think Gavin Bartholomew should be? Because I'd be like, probably like a 94. One of the 2 or 3 best tight ends in the country. But alas.
What are you guys rating Brock Bowers? Yeah, just knock a point off.
Yeah,
1 or 2. So, I mean, you mentioned him already, Squid. Bart, where are we putting him at? Are we locking in a overall for Yarnell? I like David's prediction here. 73 is, I think, a fair spot to put him.
Yeah, if there's updates weekly, I could see him climbing up to the mid to high 70s by week 10.
I hope they do that. We were discussing beforehand because Madden does that, and there's obviously a lot more tape on NFL players than there is on college players. So, like, what's going to happen when some random quarterback from a group of 5 school or some transfer who sucked for the last 3 years winds up at an SEC school and just completely tears it up? And they're in the game as like I'm talking myself into it. They have to do this because
they will.
Imagine like a Robert Griffin III situation where it's like nobody knew this guy's name before the season, and then we're 4 games in and he has more touchdowns than incompletions. Everybody's going to want to play as that guy on the game, and nobody's going to want to play as like a 64 overall. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that there's going to be frequent updates to player ratings.
Yeah, that'll happen. And this will be a topical touch on after we kind of churn our way through the current roster, which players we missed playing with over the last decade of a game. I think Kenny Pickett would be a good example. Coming into the year, I don't know. Is he an 80 overall? Maybe. End of the year, Heisman finalist, 97, 98, probably. So that'll be an interesting experiment to see if the Pitt team has some success in some way, shape, or form and how it changes.
We'll put a pin in that one.
Yeah,
all right, who's next?
I think Bart. Where do we think they're going to line up with him? This is a tough one because once again, I think we and all Pitt fans know how good he is and that he should be highly rated, but I think it's going to be hard for EA Sports game developers to look at his I don't even know what the numbers were, 20 catches under Frank Signetti's offense and rate him very highly. And I was also looking at the rosters. I mean, they don't really give out super high ratings to a lot of tight ends from what I can tell.
Well, a lot's changed in 10 years, so I'm going to follow my heart on this one and say he's got to be like an 85.
All right, I had him at an 86. And I think that's actually realistic. I mean, they have to give someone good ratings on this team. I mean, we saw in the last one that they gave Devin Street an 88. So, I mean, if anyone evaluates these rosters, and I'm sure that they're putting in a good amount of research with, reaching out, hey, you cover these teams. Who are these teams' best players? I can't imagine many people aren't going to just right out of the gate say Gavin Bartholomew. So I think that mid to high 80s range is very attainable.
Give him a 99 hurdle rating. That's all I ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's absolutely going to be jacked up a little bit, the hurdle. So we'll lock him in at his uniform number, an 86 in the game. Any other skill position players here? I mean, I think Rodney Hammond, the other big one that we wanted to touch on early. Once again, may fall victim to the stat sheet situation. Has never ran for 1,000 yards in a season. We've all seen Rodney do awesome things, but not sure how much EA developers are going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm thinking he comes in at like an 80 even.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So we're kind of synced up here. I was just brooding about how this is just another thing that Signetti screwed up for all of these guys. Yeah. I can't imagine a lot of them are going to be happy when the ratings come out and there's one man to blame for that.
That's going to be one of the more fun things. I mean, we already saw it at some Texas State offensive lineman already went viral when he saw his overall was like a 56. People are like, dude, you're a backup lineman for Texas State. Whatever you're expecting.
No, I'm so glad you brought this up. That's going to be the best day maybe in Twitter history when they release all these player ratings, because you have guys who are redshirt freshmen on low-level FC or not FCS group of 5 teams complaining that they just had like the lowest possible rating slapped on them, and then the developers moved on. And there's nobody on the planet more egotistical than Division I athletes. They're going to be just the funniest, most disconnected meltdowns you'll ever see in your life. I'm not hopping out of the app that entire day.
Yeah, well, that's how Khalil Mack got his number. He was a 46 overall as like a true freshman at Buffalo. So he picked number 46. That was his overall. And look at him now. Some good inspiration for all those redshirt freshmen out there that get snubbed.
Can't wait to see the tailback at like Northern Illinois just rocking number 52 because of it. That's his rating in the game.
Yeah, like how there's so many guys in the NFL that, I memorized all 12 guys at my position taken before me, so I wear number 12. Or like Amon-Ra St. Brown has a million names memorized of guys taken before him, and that's just going to be, my NCAA football rating my freshman year was 43, so now I'm a slot receiver rocking 43.
On to receivers.
Observation on that. Pitt's receivers have a lot of weird numbers. We had a 23, a 22, a 20, a 21.
Yeah, those are the group of guys who haven't proven that they're any good yet, so they just weren't given a single digit or a team number. Because if you guys remember, what was Kenny Johnson rocking in camp? Like 35 through the
It was
spring?
something ridiculous.
I think it was 35, and I think we talked about like, oh, he might not be that good. They're making him wear 35, and then it was like he just showed up wearing number 2. It's like, oh no, he's good. Never mind. Confirmed good.
Speaking of Kenny Johnson being confirmed good.
Yeah, so once again, Kenny Johnson falls into that category of guy that I think Pitt fans think and know is better than what the average college football fan or developer is going to look at. I mean, he had 15 catches last year.
15 catches, 122 yards. He had a pretty good game last season.
Right. So, I mean,
I feel like we talk about him as if he had 122 yards in like one of the final games of the year alone, but
yeah, that's on us.
Yeah.
That's on Frank Signetti.
That kind of came with there was with the same thing with the transfer portal last year. Everyone was like, oh, he's gone. Like someone's going to come poach him. And I was like, are they going to come poach the kid who had 15 catches for a 3-9 team last year? Is that what's going to happen? Obviously we know he's talented, housed the kickoff last year, but I mean, I just can't imagine they give him a great rating out of the gate. I'm giving him like a 75.
I had 76 penciled in, but I think he is perhaps the biggest candidate of a high riser in the overall department because, I mean, Montfield will be good. Other than that, who knows what the receiver is going to be? And I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I think Kenny Johnson will get the Mo French treatment and just rack up a ton of stats. And we might not be very good, but we'll have like so many yards and touchdowns. He'll be like top 15 of the NCAA. And
you guys think he's going to be a bigger part? I mean, and this is where this starts to turn into a bit of a season preview. Do you think he's actually going to have like a bigger year than Kanade Mumpfield next year? Do you think he's ready to take that step already? I feel like Mumpfield is just kind of like this forgotten guy, kind of underperformed his first year. And then last year, we all know what happened. But I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, he's been in college at this point for 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I just think Mumpfield's kind of a sleeper.
I think Mumpfield's like the traditional receiver here. I think Kenny Johnson will get like the screens, the jet sweeps. I mean, he'll be in special teams, so he'll do a lot of things.
It's so hard to tell who on this offense was cheeks and who just played for Frank Signetti.
I think we're at 3 on the name dropping.
Everybody that we mentioned so far.
So we're gonna make a swear jar out of that name this year. But I can't disagree with you. So with that said, Kanade Mumpfield, 79.
I was gonna give him like an 81 or an 82, but I can live with yours.
Let's split the difference. We'll call it an even 80.
Yeah.
They've got to give some people good ratings. We said this before. Like I said, the rest of the receivers are kind of a crapshoot. It's like, will these guys play? Will they be good? There's who knows. But Shane Wabuko, I think he should be a 99 speed. So
Yeah, I'll be curious to
regardless of
see
his
what he
overall,
gets in the speed department.
he will be fun to use on punt returns.
I think that'll be a really good indicator of, did the developers do their research? Because like all the stuff we're hearing out of this game is that the attention to detail is absurd. Like you can unlock the red, white, and blue theme that Texas A&M did after 9/11 23 years ago. Only did it once, and you can unlock that somehow. Like that is a crazy amount of detail. So I think a good indication will be if they say, "Hey, this guy's one of the fastest sprinters in the country. Make him fast in the game."
Fair enough.
Were they willing to put in the work to know that Shane Wabuko runs track on the side? This like fourth string receiver at Pitt.
First thing I'll be checking when I open the game.
Yeah.
Anyone else on this offense that you guys care to give a rating to?
Ryan Baer.
Yeah, what do we is he? I don't know. Do they look?
Is Ryan Jacoby just a better offensive lineman than he is?
Well, he did not play last year, so
I
don't
think
know.
they'll slap like an 80 on both of those guys.
I think we're probably working with like across the board, like between 77s and 81s for the O-line. Just call it a day.
Oh, I think it's going to be lower than that.
Lower? Maybe.
Yeah. All right, on to the somehow more depressing unit to talk about.
Okay, I'm going to go out and just start with Donovan McMillan, because I think the fact that he had like over 100 tackles last year, had 20 tackles in a game, that's like an easy candidate for like, we're just going to give this guy a good rating because this team needs some good players. So like I honestly could see McMillan being like Pitt's highest rated player on the roster. If it's not him, if it's not Bart, I think it might just be him at like an 87 or 88.
I agree. I was going to say 88.
And then, I mean, the other safeties, honestly, the best players on this, or most proven players on this defense at this point, are the safeties. PJ O'Brien had, 3 picks last year, so there's some stats there for him. Javon McIntyre, I think both those guys could fall in like the 83, 84 category.
Yeah, it's funny. If you look at the defense, the guys who Pat Narduzzi is talking about the most, he's hyping up Kyle Lewis. He's hyping up Cruz Brookins, like Braylon Lovelace. Like these are guys who might be the best players on the defense when the football games start happening, but they will absolutely get no respect in this video game because they haven't played a whole lot.
Yeah, I agree that I think McIntyre will get a good rating. You can't see it because of the screen sharing. He was prominently featured doing a turnover dunk in the preview for the gameplay. So I'm going to read way too far into that and say he's like an 84.
I don't know. Maybe David Ojigba. They're just like, oh, that guy transferred from Clemson. We should give him a higher overall. Former 4-star. I'll be curious how many like guys just get like benefit of the doubt. Like, he was a 4-star recruit. Will they look into that? I don't know.
Similarly, I bet they do the same thing for transfers. Like, I mean, he was decent and limited. Like Nate Matlock. Yeah, he was decent in limited time at Kansas State. Make him a feature defensive end, and yeah, he's in the 80s. I think Key Thompson is going to get like an 82, 83, because he was, as I have claimed until I'm breathless multiple times, he was a straight up dog at Ohio University, and they're just going to be like, I mean, yeah.
I think this is a good time to.
Who are you bribing at EA Sports, David?
This is a good time to rehash that we have an agreement with David that if Key Thompson is terrible, we just get to mercilessly shit on him for the rest of the time. So,
and I'm okay with that. I have to have something I care about this season. And seeing as how I genuinely do think that this is like a 5-win max football club, Key Thompson's success is my success. Speaking of which,
jersey?
Might have to need a mulligan for my powder blue Kenny Pickett. Gonna give DH Gate another shot. No, but speaking of which, I hope that this is not the defensive line that we go with. If you are looking at the screen, especially considering that it has Nate Temple as the starting left defensive end, and he very much has a torn ACL and will not be playing this season. So,
what is your ideal defensive line?
Oh, that's a really hard question.
Deion Hayes, Sam Okunlola. Oh,
DeAndre Jules in the middle. I'm a sicko. I was watching the Pitt Boston College highlights
when?
And I was like, oh, wow. I forgot how good DeAndre Jules was at times.
Yeah, I mean, right now they've got Nakai Johnson slotted as a starter. Couldn't really see
at defensive tackle.
Yeah, couldn't see the field at DN, so they just bumped him down to D tackle. Don't hate the move, but I mean, right now they have him slotted in there. Sean Fitzsimmons, I actually think he should be pretty good.
Yeah,
he was banged up last year, so he might be a bright spot for us in the middle there. Matt Lack has contributed at the Power 5, now Power 4 level. And I think, honestly, would love if Sincere Edwards was just so good that they couldn't keep him off the field as a true freshman.
I've heard a lot of good things about him so far. He is someone I genuinely have hope in. But honestly, I wouldn't be upset if they went all transfers plus Sean Fitzsimmons, like gave me Ojigba and Matt Lack on the ends, and then Fitzsimmons and Nick James in the middle.
Yeah, and then they're going to rotate. Jimmy Scott will play. Bam Brema is somehow still in college.
Same with Brandon
what about
George.
That last name?
Somehow still in college, and
the last name, Dave.
Yeah.
Elliot Donald.
Yeah,
I think I've just kind of come to grips with that one.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we've given any of these guys ratings, but absolute best, I'm going to say Matt Lack's going to be like the highest rated at like 83 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if
I think
anyone on the defense will be higher than an 81 besides McMillan. I think McMillan, a gap, then Brandon George, then a tiny gap, and then everyone else in like the high 70s to mid 70s range. Because I feel like the most average to like mediocre player is like a 75 in this game. And I feel like that's a lot of like what we have or what is perceived to be had.
I would agree. I think we're working with like a Donovan McMillan 88, 89, a Javon McIntyre 84, 85, and then just a bunch of guys in the mid 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, this team's going to be a pretty brutal play, not going to lie. Like, if Yarnell is really rated as low as the guy who predicted him to be 151 out of 155, this is going to be a pretty tough team to play with. And maybe that makes it fun for the rebuild for your dynasty that you kick off as soon as you open up the game. But could be a tough team to play with when you fire up that console. But hey, there's always the option to give Nate Yarnell like a 95 speed.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What everyone loves to do NCAA is create a dynasty with your favorite team and make them better, lead them to the promised land. So we have our work cut out for us. As we know, this Pitt team probably won't be rated all that well. So day one, put in the disc, fire up a Pitt dynasty. What are we doing now that we are in Pat Narduzzi's shoes running the program? Are we changing our recruiting philosophy?
Cussing out Jerry DePaula in a press conference.
Yeah. I'm shutting off practice to the media.
I don't know, it was a fun little.
You guys said I'm limited in my Frank Signetti references, right?
Correct.
Okay, well then I'm firing the offensive coordinator and bringing in a guy who's going to run the ball.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about what we would do, not with Pat Narduzzi's brain in our head.
Okay.
Because I think the one thing that Pitt has going for it is if this was last year's team, we would have Phil Jerkovic, and we'd also have Frank Signetti. We'd have his playbook, which is just the most bland, like 2008 ass style of football. Now we have an up-tempo offense, which is at least fun to use in a video game.
Is EA Sports, like, did someone have to sit down and watch hours and hours and hours of Western Carolina football to try to get, like,
every team has their own playbook?
Guess what Cade Bell's playbook is going to be?
That will be very tough for the new coordinators, I assume, but every team has their own playbook. So Pitt will have a playbook, and it'll be what they expect Cade Bell's offense to be, I suppose.
I think I'm just installing a Wildcat package with Rodney Hammond and then Shea Nwabuko as the jet sweep guy.
That could work.
I'm pretty sure Pitt actually tried that last year. So,
yeah, they tried a lot of fun things last year. No, I'm trying to figure out a way to set the game back 2 years and making some different personnel decisions.
I'm going to find a way to cheat. Is there a way to like work with shady boosters? Like I might run the risk of getting some scholarships taken away or getting suspended like Jim Harbaugh did, but I think that's worth
I will be rolling the dice every opportunity the game gives me in terms of getting more NIL funds.
Would you like to make an illegal payment to this guy who is not in the transfer portal yet from Texas? Yes. And who knows? I might get fired after a year and caught, and I'll end up at like Bowling Green trying to redeem myself. But hey, that's all the fun of the video game.
Yeah, I mean, Hugh Freeze is back at Auburn. Like,
yeah,
we'll rebuild. Honestly, that might be more fun because I mean, if you play the game, you're gonna build some random team into like 4-time national champion, winning every game by 100 points. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get bored. You're gonna need those NCAA sanctions to come in and send you back down to like Northern Illinois, and then you can work your way back up.
Yeah, I hope this game doesn't try to. I know there's some with the road to glory, like being able to manage your brand, your grades, and everything. I hope they don't have us coaches ruin our integrity rating, and then we can't build it back up because everyone knows college football coaches don't have integrity.
It's true.
So there are some cool traditions in this game. I'm glad the turnover dunk made the cut, but some songs are not in the game, and they confirmed some of these. So unfortunately, because the rights to Enter Sandman are like bajillions of dollars, Enter Sandman is not in the game. Neither is Jump Around, but I think they have Mo Bamba. There were a couple other cool traditions that they said were in the game.
Isn't Neck?
Yes.
Isn't Neck in the game?
Yes.
LSU banned it. NCAA football is bringing it back.
Yeah, so apparently all the bands are going to be in the correct spot and we'll play like what they actually play, like all the fight songs, obviously. So if they have a signature thing like that, it'll be played. No comment on Sweet Caroline.
Oh, can I change my answer to what I would change if I got to take over the Pitt program? We're replacing Sweet Caroline with Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand.
I have a feeling
God
they won't
intended.
put Sweet Caroline in the game, but if they do, I'll march up to Heather Lake's office and make her do it. Make her change
You know it would be like the greatest thing, and by the greatest I mean the worst thing ever, if they put it in the game for Penn State and not Pitt.
Well, if it's realistic, the Acrisure Stadium will be empty every game.
Ah, the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. I can only talk about what we're going to do with Pitt in this game so much. I want to talk about the players that we missed out on, the players that we were robbed of for the last 10 years without this game being made. I guess we can definitely, let's start with the guys who we would have played with for Pitt, and then obviously all the great players we missed out across the country.
All right, on the count of three, everybody say who they missed out on the most. 1, 2, 3. Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
I wish that was more in unison, but yeah.
Okay, now that we got that one out of the way.
Well, that team would be so fun. That would be.
Oh my God.
I started writing names down, and I eventually
just all on that team.
The 2021 team.
What would his rating be?
I mean, he'd have to be like a 98 by the end of the year. He was a Heisman finalist.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they ended, but yeah, it would have been 96 or up. And then, I mean, but you would have had Jordan Addison, who would have been probably a 98, 99, honestly, that year. I mean, he was the Biletnikoff winner, had 1,600 yards, just unbelievable year. Izzy Abanikanda, I mean, we were robbed of just having a 98 speed running back in that offense.
I would have played triple option with Izzy, and I would have made that Virginia Tech game look like child's play. He would have had 600 yards and 10 touchdowns a game.
Kalijah Kancey would be awesome because I don't know what the controls for the defensive line would be, but it would be comically easy to beat your guy by doing whatever move you wanted.
I'm a big use of the defensive tackle or DN guy in
just blow
football
up the play.
Games because, I mean, there was just a plethora of guys we could have used. Could have used Pat Jones, Rashad Weaver, Jalen Twyman.
Those guys all would have been high 80s.
Oh, absolutely.
Kancey would have been in the 90s.
I'm pissed we didn't get to use Elijah Zeiss. Dog soldier himself.
Receiver or linebacker?
I would have moved him. I would have had him playing both ways like Travis Hunter.
And his rating would have been the same too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually curious. I want to call him and I'm about to put him on speaker. I just want to see if he thinks he's going to get back pay for like the billions of dollars in back pay that the NCAA owes these players for like the NIL revenue sharing, or I guess it's not NIL revenue sharing.
Well, like
would be
$6.
Be funny. Yeah. Like what's his valuation right now?
It's like Elijah Zeiss and Joe Burrow get the same amount of the paycheck.
Yeah, we'll have to touch base with him on that.
I mean, that Matt Canada offense we missed out on. That would be sweet. And it would have been extra fun because you could do like shovel passes and jet sweeps and all that good stuff.
I mean, just imagine Georgia Aston. You know how many fullback dives I would have ran?
What was James Conner? What would he have been rated?
Oh, that's a pre-cancer or post-cancer?
No, it's a very fair question, but it's both.
Pre-97, post-91.
That's just impressive.
He'd have a 99 overall stiff arm.
Tyler Boyd.
Did we get T-Boy? T-Boy might have been a freshman. So, yeah, we didn't really get to use that Tyler Boyd. So, yeah, he would have been awesome. Absolutely.
Quadri Anderson would have been sick.
Damn
Quadri
them
Anderson.
for robbing us of, like, 10 years. 10 years of this game that we've been robbed of.
I've been a lot more productive without it. I'm going to assure you that.
Yeah, probably for the best.
I will have an unproductive end of July.
Might have to set it up outside so I can still like enjoy the summer, but lock in on this. All right, what about some guys that non-Pitt players that we missed out on that we wish we had gotten to play with?
I think Lamar Jackson would have been maybe the best, like, since Vic and Madden 04.
Yes.
Best college football or best video game football player.
If he's the clear number one, I think number two is just playing as LSU in 2019. I would, if we could mess with like the timelines a little bit, I wish 11-year-old me could have played with that LSU team to try to win a game 200-0 on easy mode with like the longest possible quarters. Because that's what I did.
It would be unfair. Like if I was playing against someone using Louisville, I'd be like, "Shut up! No, you aren't."
Oh yeah, that would be a non-starter.
Who else?
I mean, Marvin Harrison would have been sweet.
I think Derrick Henry would have been fun.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels. Like, even this past year, there would have been a lot of really fun guys to play. What
How
about
the OSU team when Braxton Miller got moved to whatever, running back, wide receiver, H-back hybrid?
Zeke Elliott? Oh, Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray.
That would have been a lot of fun. All right,
Patrick Mahomes threw for like 700 yards in a game in that Texas Tech offense.
I'd have him averaging that.
I'm sure their playbook was just 4 verticals every play, so it wouldn't be all that fun because it was so repetitive, but it would probably just work.
So it would have been the way 80% of people play the game anyway.
Yeah.
You're either a 4 verts guy or you're a triple option guy. There's no third guy.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Okay. So I think we've all kind of agreed that Pitt might not be who we run to play with. We aren't. Do they still sell video games in DVD form?
Yes, but not every console has a DVD slot.
Okay. So regardless, I don't think a lot of us are ripping open that plastic case to plug in the game and play as Pitt. Who are you guys excited to play as? Whether that be just in one-off matchups or some sort of dynasty mode.
Well, I know David told us before we started he wanted to play with Colorado a lot.
No.
Customize the watch that Shador wears before every game.
I'll sheepishly admit I kind of want to play with Colorado
because of Dayon and Sammy O.
Yeah, just take turns with those two trying to get to the quarterback.
I mean,
Travis Hunter will probably be sick.
They're going to make him like a 99. They're going to make that whole team like comically better than it should be because you're just selling games.
Yeah.
I really want to.
Cool. Dylan Gabriel's there now, so they have a good quarterback. They have all the uniforms. That's like half the fun.
I think the most fun single player is going to be Jaden Daniels at Kansas. Everyone knows the most fun players in NCAA football are running quarterbacks. Vince Young, Denard Robinson, Jalen Daniels is the closest thing to that we have this year.
Kyle McCord at Syracuse. I saw a tweet, and I don't know if it was satire, but someone was saying how they were having trouble. Or it might have been a Reddit post. They were having trouble completing passes with Kyle McCord, and someone was like, "Oh, the game's realistic. That's what we were worried about."
I'm going to play as Penn State just for the screenshot of Drew Aller going 10 for 50. No touchdowns, but no picks because they only ran 3-yard outs. And he missed on 80% of them. So, you know, anytime that they play a ranked opponent.
I will be making a note of that. I'm going to do that.
I'm excited. I want to play with
hike, roll out, throw the ball away, intentional grounding 40 times in a row. It'll go up on Twitter, and Fred Sturt will reply in 5 seconds.
I want to see what they do with Texas and what they do with Arch Manning's guy. Like, is it just going to be an empty spot on the depth chart, or are they going to do like what they used to do with Barry Bonds and just make him like give him a different name and skin tone?
That's a good question.
I mean,
I forgot he did that. That was so annoying.
Is he the only one to do it? Like,
no, there's other guys that haven't, but nobody like that you would know. Like I saw there were a couple guys on LSU that haven't.
I mean, like, just spare me.
Yeah,
like take your $500 check and be in the game. All right, we got anywhere else to go with this?
Yeah, I want to play Road to Glory or Dynasty mode with Penn State, just so I can abuse the team doctors into letting us guys back into the game or cut players having severe mental health issues. Had to get one more in. Sorry.
All right. Well, I think we can leave it at that. Can't wait. July, what's the date? Release date?
16th?
I think it's the 12th or the 13th if you have the deluxe edition early access like myself. So
did you pay extra for that?
A little bit. You get other things too.
Like what?
I think it's like
you don't even know. You just wanted the game 2 days early.
Yeah. There's some Ultimate Team stuff that I might eventually use, but we all know where we're starting.
I respect it. Can't wait.
Get to the promised land. By the time you guys get it, I'll have like 2 national titles under my belt.
July can't get here soon enough.
No, it can't. We all know someone who's trying to figure out the next steps in their life. They're looking for something new, or maybe just a break. What if there's a job opportunity for those looking to make a change that requires no experience and pays up to $19.50 an hour to start, plus 401k and healthcare benefits? Whether someone you know is in between jobs, transitioning careers, or even just a recent grad or current student on break, Haddad Accelerated Delivery is an Amazon delivery partner that offers flexible opportunities to those looking for work. Whether it's part-time or full-time, long-term, or just until you figure out your next big move, Haddad Accelerated Delivery offers the stability and professional development you need. If you know someone who might benefit from talking to the team at Haddad, have them text 464646 to apply. That's a text to 464646 to apply.
Now it's time for some final thoughts. And there's a lot of final thoughts we could throw out there since we took about a month and a half hiatus from doing the show. But I'm going to kick us off, just get it started. We just talked a bunch about a college football video game, but I want to touch base on some basketball with you all. Jeff Capel, the initial name of this this Twitter account. Now the Loyal Sons, formerly Capel faithful. We never lost faith in Capel. Everyone knows that. Never once called for his job. Because of things he can do like this. And this offseason, he once again has an impressive portal performance going in, solidifying a roster that I think everyone already thought was going to be pretty good next year, but has upgraded at a few spots. So believe last episode we talked, they had got their first commit in the portal in Cam Corhan, the forward from Florida State. And since then, they've landed Damian Dunn, the transfer from Houston, guard, fifth-year guy, veteran, grown-ass man to put in that backcourt with Ish and Jalen. And out of nowhere, Capel pulled a rabbit out of the hat and landed Amsal Delalic. And I could be butchering that name, but it's the Bosnian. He's a 6'7" wing. He can shoot a little bit, has been playing some pro ball before this, and really happened really quickly back in what it was about 2.5 weeks ago at this point. We hear that Pitt's going to get this Bosnian kid on a visit, and then by the end of the weekend, he committed, and what we're assuming is probably the last scholarship player on this year's roster. So once again, Jeff Capel showing that he is built for this era of college athletics, whereas I think maybe Pat Narduzzi, the NIL era, the transfer portal era, maybe doesn't fit him as well. I think Pitt has a guy who is just tailor-made for this kind of coaching.
It seems like he is a pretty highly coveted recruit. I think towards, like, he came out of nowhere on Pitt's radar. He's visiting Pitt. And your first thought was probably, is this some random dude from Bosnia? Is he any good? And then you see Creighton was in the mix for him. Louisville made a late push.
VCU.
So yeah. These are some very respectable programs also interested. So that's always a good sign. And then I always think back to the early Kevin Stallings days. And anytime Pitt would get a commit, finding highlights of them was near impossible. There'd be like 45 seconds of grainy footage from one game and from like the corner of the gym. This guy has some legit highlights. Like the things that he can do, exactly what we need. Another ball handler. He looks like a great shooter. He's a playmaker. Some nice passes in there. So this isn't some Joe Schmo from another country playing in rec league. Might not be the best competition, but I think what he can do will translate to college basketball and can plug him right in and keep this train rolling.
Yep. So
yeah, we're going to the Final Four.
Pitt confirmed good at basketball still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really excited about this team, how it's shaking.
Yeah.
David, Squid, final thoughts from you two?
Yeah, I'll go first. And I think the things that we're going to talk about are semi-related. A lot has changed in college football somehow in the last month and a half. For starters, Jaden Rashada filed a lawsuit against the University of Florida. If that name rings a bell to you, is probably because he was offered what many believe to be the largest NIL payment for a kid out of high school in the history of NIL. Florida got him to flip from, I believe it was Miami, with a $13.5 million payment over 3 years, I want to say it was. He committed, and immediately after he signed the letter, Florida was like, hey, so that $13.5 million, we have like 100,000 of it. So we don't have it now, nor will we ever have it. So sorry. And he transferred to Arizona State, was a true freshman, so didn't really see the field. And this past year, he transferred to Georgia. Now, that's not the important thing. The important thing here is that this lawsuit might take a couple years, but it could very well set a precedent for college athletics programs lying to players' faces. Because you guys tell me, have we not heard like more than a handful of stories since the start of the NIL era about, yeah, this guy was told he was going to get this amount of money and the school or the NIL collective is just not going to deliver on that amount of money and basically told him tough squash.
Yep, we've heard that.
I sort of assumed it was similar to some aspects of other sports where you hear a big number like, oh, he was offered $3 million by this school, but in reality, it's like in small increments, and like there's other things that they might have to do to get to that big number, and they never will. So it's like headline grabby. But there's probably a lot out there like that where it's like, yeah, we could this $4 million, and they're like, yeah, sign me up. I don't care what the fuck I have to do. I'll take $4 million, and then you get there, and
yeah,
unless there's like a super duper legal document saying that you're entitled to it, you could be screwed. Goes both ways. They could take the money and leave, vice versa. So I guess that's a good thing that
absolutely
that happened and it's being addressed.
And keep in mind, if you're listening to this and you are one of those college football's being ruined by greedy athletes guys, keep in mind that behind every air quotes greedy college athlete is a booster that is lying to him about how much money he'll get if he comes to his school. So, this is good all around if we can put up some parameters on any parameters on the negotiation of NIL deals, which I think kind of transitions Squid to what you were going to talk about.
Revenue sharing.
Do you forget what?
I did not think that's what was assigned to me. I didn't do the homework.
We'll tell you what you were supposed to talk about, Squid. Basically, schools can now pay athletes $22 million. Revenue sharing, yada, 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 back pay. And I don't know. Kind of seems like it's completely groundbreaking. And then I see people who are like, oh, yeah, it's not going to change that much. Kind of seems like the biggest thing that has happened in college athletics since NIL legislation was passed. Yeah.
Since Teddy Roosevelt rewrote the rules of football so that people couldn't die.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I could have sworn there was something in there about like NIL having, in short, has to be legit. Like you have to prove market value on a payment. Like, for example, not saying Bowser does this, but just because they're a very prominent booster for Pitt football, like they, in theory, couldn't just pay a Kenny Pickett, a Kalijah Cansey $4 million. And I regret using the name of a real brand that's local to us. Any brand couldn't, any car dealership in Athens, Georgia couldn't give Carson Beck $5 million. If his, like, the realistic market that a 21-year-old football player could get you is like a couple $100,000. Like there would need to be some burden of proof that we aren't just throwing money at him to keep him out of the portal or something.
I was under the impression that was already a thing. How closely was monitored?
It was supposed to be. So maybe I'm wrong.
No, I know, but yeah, that's definitely written into it. So, I mean, that would be great if it's enforced, and I really hope it is, because at least we can make some sort of level playing field here. The downside of it is that, I mean, that's a lot of money that these schools are going to have to come up with if they want to be competitive. And quite frankly, I think schools like Pitt probably don't have $22 million laying around. Now, can Pitt now that they're able to get involved, they can do the fundraising. They can work it into, however they need to do it. TV deals, whether it's football, basketball, NCAA, March Madness money, they can come up with it. But I think the general consensus is that there's probably going to be some sports that are cut in the athletic department. Unfortunate. I'm also not completely of the opinion that football and basketball need to fund every other sport's payroll, but it is what it is. But with that being said, I do think this is a step in the right direction. It only took them 3 years to put any type of rules in place.
I do get what you're saying, and I do not want to wade into the murky water of the what about the Olympic sports argument. However, there are a lot of Power 5 programs that can cry poor all they want, but in order to afford this $20 million a year, all they're really going to need to do is not renovate their locker room every other year, which is a thing that these schools do to justify not paying players. Like Alabama has a new locker room every year so that they can claim their margins are too thin to pay players. That's how it was for years. So
yeah, you don't need a water slide going into Dabo Sweeney's office for the players to come have their meetings.
You think he endorses that level of tomfoolery? You are mistaken.
I think I've seen videos of their locker room and they just have like mini golf courses.
They have a slide leading to mini golf courses, but the transfer portal is where they draw the line. None of that. No transfers. But mini golf
except when Jesus Christ transferred to Christianity in the River Jordan.
Didn't you guys listen to Dabo? The players in the transfer portal just aren't good enough to play for them. That's why they don't take them.
I hate him.
All right, we snuck in a few jabs at Dabo.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, we're back, fellas. Well, we had to knock the rust off a little bit, but, new college football video game got us out of our shells. We're back behind the mics, and no promises on when we'll record again. We'll discuss that offline because I don't think we even have an idea. But
nope.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, oh well, you listened this far, so it couldn't have been that bad. Anything else before we sign off here? Nope. All right. Well, as always, hail, loyal sons of Pittsburgh.